Now today I'm going to make up a beautiful piece of roasted pork loin, and it's going to have wonderful crackling on it, and it's going to be so flavoursome, so give this one a go. So for cooking up this pork loin, I'm just going to go through the ingredients I'm going to use. Now obviously I've got the main event here, the pork loin. Now in terms of weight, mine weighs just under 2.5 kilos, which is just over £5 in old money in terms of weight. Now when you buy it, I would recommend you go down your butchers and ask them to chine and score it. Now the score is where they just get a knife and they sort of score it, you know, cut the skin if you like, because that will help crackle it up when it's cooking. And also chine it because they just cut away the bone a little bit from the meat, and it'll just make it easier to cut it up later on. So chine and score, buy it from your butchers, and you know, you can't go wrong. Now what we're going to do is we're going to rub a little bit of olive oil, or any oil really, just a slight amount over the skin. Then I'm going to add some salt and pepper, plenty of seasoning, and also the rest of the meat as well. You do need to season it well. Putting the salt on, you know, the skin will help to crackle it up along with a little bit of oil. Now also, flavour wise, we're going to add in some fresh ginger. Now I've got about 40 or 50 grams of ginger. Just, you know, you really want to peel it and chop it into like matchstick size pieces. Make a little insertion into the meat on both sides, and then just poke those into the meat itself, and it'll really flavour it up nice. Now also I've got some cloves, about 15-20 cloves, and we're just going to poke those again in the skin underneath as well, and it will just give a nice flavour. Now also at the end we're going to use a little bit of honey mixed with some ginger powder, teaspoon of ginger powder, and when this is all nice and crackly, we're just going to brush that bit of honey and the ginger powder, and it's going to add a lovely flavour. And also with the honey, it's going to, you know, add a nice colour as well whilst it's cooking. But you really do that at the end because you don't want it to burn. Now apart from the salt and pepper, the only other thing I've got there is an onion. Just peel that, chop it in half, and put that in the pan along with some water. Now the onion is going to help to flavour up the liquid so that if you want to make a nice gravy at the end of it. And you know, also the water itself is good because it helps to prevent the meat from shrinking. So you know, do that and it will be great. So there's all the ingredients, nice simple ingredients. Now what I'm going to do is just get the meat prepared, and then we're going to get on with the cooking. Now I'll just show you, flip this over, and you can see where it's been cut along here, so it's been chined, and that will just really help, you know, for carving it up later on. But what we're going to do first of all is to get a knife, you know, with a sharp point, and what we're going to do is just push down where they've like slit it almost. You can just go into the meat, and then you can just get a piece of your ginger and try and just poke that in like that. Push it in nice as far as you can, and just really repeat that all the way along, you know, and then we're going to flip it over and do both sides. So I've got with me little matchsticks there of fresh ginger, so I'm going to carry on and do all of those pieces in there. So I've got my piece of ginger on that side, and I'm going to flip it over in a minute. Before I do that, I thought I would just also stick in my little cloves there. Just have them, you know, slightly poking out. And again, just pop those going, you know, along all over it, and then we're going to flip it over and do the same on the other side. So I've done that side. Now I'm going to do the other side. I was about to flip it over, but there's some juice at the bottom of the pan, and I don't want to flip this over and make all the skin wet, because you want to keep the skin nice and dry, and that will give you a better crackling. So just going to gently turn it over, and I'm going to carry on just poking in some of the ginger and the rest of those cloves, and then we're going to season it with salt and pepper, a little bit of oil, and that is ready to go in the oven. So I'm going to carry on doing this side. Now I've done the cloves and the ginger on both sides. Now what I am going to do is just quickly switch my oven on, because I want to get that preheated so we're ready to put it in the oven and it's nice and hot. Now I've got a little bit of oil to put on this now. Now I'm not going to put it on the underside, no point. I'm just going to flip it over and like this, turn that round so you can see it. Look at that, lovely. So you've got the cloves there, and we've got the beautiful ginger there. Now I'm going to use a little bit of oil, so just going to put a little bit on the tissue. You don't need a lot, and you can almost just like dab that over, just rub it in a little bit. Now the oil, I find, does tend to help to crispen it up slightly, and also it helps to make sure the salt and the pepper sticks to it as well. So let's just pop those cloves in that disappeared. That's it. Just stick that in there like that. Lovely. Now let's get the salt and the pepper. Put plenty of pepper on it. I'm putting some in the tray so that I can try and rub it all over as well. You want to get plenty of pepper, and again plenty of salt as well, especially on the skin, the crackly bit. Again, put a little bit inside the pan, and then I can just rub everything on this. Look at that, good bit of seasoning. Now you can actually slightly rub that in as well, just to get it in those little cracks where it's been scored, like that. If any of these cloves drop out, just pop them back in again. And you can see I've got all this here, and what we want to do is try and get everything nicely coated with that salt and pepper, really get it everywhere. So again, I'm just going to rub this all over. You do need to season it well. So that is now flavoured up, looking good. Now I am going to put some water. I did mention about some water, so put a little bit of water in there. And also with the onion, I'm just going to chop that up, and I'm going to place the 2 halves of the onion in there, and then that's ready to go in the oven once it's preheated. So just going to place that in the preheated oven. Now I've got a really nice hot oven here. Now I've got my oven cranked up to maximum temperature because I want to give the meat a little bit of a blast for the first 20 minutes or so. Now by doing that, you know, because it's a big lump of meat, it gets the heat into the meat, gets the meat cooking, and also it's going to help the skin to start its crackling process. So maximum temperature for about 20 minutes or so, and then we're going to reduce the temperature down and carry on cooking. Now I would say, in terms of cook time, total from start to finish, I'm probably going to be cooking mine for about 2 hours. Now the formula I tend to use is roughly for every 1 pound in weight, and my weighs 5 pounds, you want to cook for about 25 minutes. So it's 5 times 25, which is 125 minutes. So that's approximately 2 hours. So leave that cooking. First 20 minutes, maximum temperature, then we're going to reduce it down and then carry on cooking. Now with the piece of pork, now I've had mine cooking, give it a blast for just over 20 minutes, coming up for 25 minutes, and look at that, it's already starting to look good. Now what you can do is you can always top it up if it needs a little bit of water, so especially at the beginning where it's nice and hot, you know, it will tend to sort of take away some of that water. So I've had it at maximum temperature. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the oven temperature down, and I'm going to put mine at 190 degrees Celsius, which is 375 degrees Fahrenheit, gas mark 5. And obviously carry on cooking till your meat's nicely cooked, and then just before the end, you know, you want to put that little bit of honey and the ginger powder, you know, brush it over the crackling, the skin, and maybe a little bit round the sides, and it will just make it taste and look wonderful. So I'll see you near the time it's cooked, and then we're going to put the honey and that on there. So I'll see you soon. Now with the pork, I've had mine cooking for 1 hour 45 minutes, and I think this is, you know, looking good. Now to check if your pork is done, what you can do is just stab it with a knife and see if the juices come out clear. It's hard to see, but that's pretty much clear. Obviously if you've got a temperature gauge, which I have, I actually bought one, what you can do is insert it. You tend to insert it in the deepest bit. Now it's quite hard because this crackling is nice and crackly, but there's a soft bit. And what you're looking for is a temperature range around about 145 to 160 Fahrenheit, and then you know it's all nicely cooked. Now mine is just whizzing up. It's at 156, so I know that's nicely cooked. Now I'm going to take that out. Now what I am going to do is to put the honey and that ginger powder. So I'm just going to quickly mix that up in the background there. Just going to pour a little bit of honey in there. Got me honey and also that ginger powder. I'm just going to mix it up just like that. Lovely. And then what we can do is just brush that on the outside, and really we just want to cook this for about another 10 minutes at the most really. Now I'm just going to brush that on like that. You see it's crackling, it's nice and crackly, but we're just giving it the final finish, and really you need to do this at the very end. If you do it too early, then all that happens is the honey burns, but it gives it a wonderful flavour, and of course with that ginger powder it's just going to reinforce the beautiful flavour we put on there. Lovely. Oh, I can't wait to tuck into this. And if you can get a little bit around the sides, all the better. And that'll do us. So even though this is cooked, I'm just going to give it another 10 minutes and that will be absolutely wonderful. And what you need to do is to leave that to tenderise once it comes out. So let's pop it back in the oven. Set your timer, don't walk away. 10 minutes at the most is all you need. Now I've finished cooking the pork, and let's have a little look at this, see how it looks. Ooh, that looks absolutely delish. Now I'm going to pull this out, so let's switch off the oven. Now what we need to do is to leave this to tenderise. So very carefully, going to pull it out. Get yourself some gloves because it is going to be really, really hot. And I'm going to put it on the table and leave it to tenderise. Now with the pork, in the end, I cooked mine for about 2 hours in total from start to finish. And let's have a little listen to that. Ooh, that's lovely. That's nice and hollow. That's the sound you want when you've got crackling. Now, what I am going to do is I'm just going to taste a little bit. I'm going to pull a little bit off here, look. If I just like break that piece off there. Oh, look at that. That is absolutely delish. Oh. The crackling is so, it's moist, but it's crackly, crunchy, delicious. And we've got a honey coating. That is wonderful. Now, I'm going to leave mine for a little bit longer because we just pulled it out of the oven. It's cooled down slightly, but I'm going to let it tenderise so the meat really tenderises. And then obviously I'm going to serve it up with all the rest of the bits. You know, I've got sort of roast potatoes and I've got stuffing and, you know, vegetables, whatever you've got. But that is lovely, lovely. Thanks for watching my videos. I'll see you in the next one. Happy Christmas. The original Naked Chef.